and welcome to this studio vlog. So the idea of these studio vlogs is to give you a little bit of behind the scenes insight into my life as a craft designer. The topic of this particular vlog is how I go from idea and concept to finish stamp. So we are going to be releasing these stamps next week, but I hope you enjoy watching the process of how I got to this stage. I think it's nice, I think it's good. It's actually feeling really emotional and have a moment, which is my favourite part. So anyway, shall we see the stamp? I think like most people that are creative, you can't just sort of turn on the creativity switch and expect just to sit down and be able to pull out a drawing from nothing. So when it comes to putting a collection together, I tend to go through my bank of old sketch pads. These I sketch and doodle in when I'm out and about, here, there and everywhere, or when I get a random idea I will just sit and sketch it, normally in the middle of the night, something like that. So I pull these books out and have a little flick through and see what images would work together as a stamp collection, and then start to rework them as I'm doing here. So this is me finished. I think I'm going to call her Little Lady Oaks. I'm actually feeling really emotional. This drawing is yeah, sorry. My grandparents' name was Oakes, so Oakes. So when I release her, she will have the spelling of my grandparents' names, and it's like I love the sentiment that's what's it small from acorns big oak trees grow, because I don't know, I just always think of my granddad. So because I was thinking of my granddad when I drew it, he always, I don't know how, and it's funny, my daughter's the same. Anytime we were wearing jogging pants or whatever, he would always have one leg up and one leg down. So one of his trousers was right down at the bottom of the ankle, and one was halfway up his knee. And my daughter's the same when she wears leggings, and it just every time I look at it, it thinks of my granddad. So I've done little socks, and she's got one up and one down. So that's an ode to my granddad there, and then I've just gone with the family name of Oakes. So she is going to be one of the tots. I was struggling a little bit because she's meant to be a tot and they're meant to be short and dumpy, and it's not quite as dumpy as I would have liked. But we can fix that when we get to the stage of doing it in Procreate. I just much prefer drawing by hand and with a pencil. I find that I can draw with the feel of a pencil. As soon as I try and sketch on Procreate, I really struggle with it. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to have a drink and have a moment, and we'll get back to the artwork in a minute. So just as another point, you may wonder why I've decided to redraw this and make them very similar. This is probably one of my very original drawings, so I like the idea. I'm wanting the concept of the woodland tops. Actually, looking at this, I kind of want to make this a little bit wider as well. So we might just bring that out a little bit. But when I first started drawing and I first started producing stamps, all of my girls were like this with closed eyes, although I've still gone closed eyes here again, and with their arm out with a little feature. And that was kind of pointed out to me that I maybe should be sort of giving people a little bit more choice and changing the poses and things like that. So because of that, I've taken that advice on board. I'm actually just wanting to move this out as well. I've seen them side by side. This is what I mean, tots are meant to be dumpy. So, but I can just do that by making this seem a little bit bigger. So if I take this here, I'll just take away this line here. My thank you, Grandad, after my emotional moment. So yeah, that is the reason why I have just changed that a little bit. It's just to give variety of poses, so not all my girls are kind of stood face on with this. So we've got her head tilted slightly, and then the other girl here, we have changed that. So you can see what I mean if I put these drawings together. So we've got this girl, her arms out like this, and then this girl, her arms out like this. So I think it was just, I just started drawing, I was confident with that. I've gradually tried to work out my skills. So again, it's not a huge change, but I've just brought her arms forward and still like that. I still want it to have an overall look of a tot. So I haven't sort of changed the pose too much. But it's just a few minor tweaks. All of these things trying to make them look dumpier, and things I can manage to do when I move on to working on my iPad. Okay, so I'm at the next stage now of my stamp making process. I realise this is probably very different for everyone. It's probably not the most efficient way of doing it. As I said, a lot of people just work directly on Procreate, but for some reason I don't get on with it. So the next thing I do is I take photographs of the artwork that I've done, and then I trace that on Procreate to get my line art, which I can then send off to be turned into stamps. So I'm just going to photograph that now and then sketch it all up. That's where I can kind of clean up my images, sort of make little alterations. But I just find as I'm actually at the first stage, I need pencil and paper. So just about to do that now. Yeah, so let's go into Procreate. And then what I would do is I'm going to open up a thing like this, and then I'm going to insert a photo and then choose one of my girls here, and then that's just imported like that. Let me see, I want to try and get it as big as possible because it's good for trying to yeah, I need to work out my lighting for this. Right, so I want to get that as big as I can on the canvas because it will end up with, oops, making a pig's ear of this, it will end up with a better line. So we'll sort of get that there. And then what I do is just reduce the opacity down so I can barely see it. And I tend to use, I can tell my daughter's been on this because she's been she's been using different brushes. I tend to use the calligraphy one and monoline. I use it at the lowest setting and in black. And then I will just gradually sketch what I'm doing. So the advantage of this is I can go right in and then I'll be able to get details easier than I could when I was doing the actual sketching with the pencil. So let's get going with this now then. So after I do the line art, so basically turning the sketch into a digital image, I send it to my laptop and then I sort of piece various images together in order to make a stamp set. So that's just the stage I'm at now. So I am using a program called Serif. Unfortunately, it's no longer available. I bought it when I was mostly using it for digital crafting, so I'm familiar with it and I know how to use it. I know there's fancier programs out there like Photoshop, but this works for me. All I have to be able to do is to resize things, move them about, and to make sure that I have a 7mm gap between each of the images because I need that for when you cut round the photopolymer. Okay, so once I've got the stamps to the stage that you saw all arranged, I then email them over to the stamp manufacturers, which I have done. So they have been uploaded. What will happen next is they will create them into artwork files for the process that they do, and they will email them to me to proof it, to check that it's okay. Once I approve it, I can then place an order. So that's to happen. The other thing I need to do is I've not yet coloured the images for the packaging. I tend to still hand colour mine. Two reasons for that is I could digitally do them, but at the minute I am better at using traditional alcohol markers than I am doing digital art. I have been working really hard on the digital art so I can expand the digital side of my business. So it is improving. And so originally in my head I was thinking, once I get better at digital art, I will do that for the packaging because it would be so, it would be save so much time. But the thing is with that is that with the best will in the world, if you get these stamps home and stamp them on colouring, you're not going to make them look like the packaging because that would be digital art and you're not going to use physical stamps in digital art. So I want to actually stick with the physical colouring so that it is something you can achieve. You can look at the packaging and achieve what's there. So to do that, I need to enlarge the images because to keep the quality, you need to sort of make it big and then reduce it. If you kind of colour small, you're going to end up with really bad quality. I also have to apologise for this. This is the day that I really hurt my finger. And I have ordered splints for my hand because I don't know whether it's just I've overworked it with all the artwork. So this is a makeshift splint out of plasters. So it's not the prettiest thing. It's also a little bit cumbersome. It's not particularly making work easy, but it's sore, but I'm managing to work. So that's something. So I'm just about to enlarge these, which I will show you, print them off, and then we will start colouring, which is my favourite part. Colouring. I think I am 2 pages down for the stamp set that are going off. I just have 2 more to do, so we're about halfway. But I'm just about to colour Foxy Tot. So she is based on, this is meant to be Foxglove down here. And then we've got the little ears so that she's almost like she's dressed up like a fox as well. So because she is based on the foxglove flower, I want it to look like that when it's coloured. So I am using a reference photo. So I've just gone onto Pinterest and typed in foxglove and I have all these beautiful pictures here. So if you're not sure about, I like that one actually, that's got the pink and the yellow together. If you're not sure about your colouring, reference photos are a really good idea. So like with this, you've got the frog, you could pull out reference photos of frogs, same with the acorn girls and things like that. So just about to do her, yeah, and we're getting there. So now I have coloured all of these in. I now have to get them back from being physical to being digital so that I can put them on the packaging. So the way I find it the easiest is to photograph them. I have tried scanning them, but I found I wasn't able to get the quality that I liked. So now I need to photograph all of these and then I digitally cut them out. Now I know you can put them in software where it takes away all the background for you, but I'm quite fussy and I always just find that's not quite as accurate for me as I like. So I do all of this by hand. So best get to that now. It's funny because quite often as I do this process, yeah, I'm just like everyone else. I get riddled with self-doubt, and I can go from, yeah, I love this, to like, oh, I don't know if it works. And when all the line art comes together, I'm always at that stage of like, oh, I don't know, oh, I think it's nice, I think it's good. It's only when I colour it and start to put those collections together in colour that I'm like, yeah, actually I like this. So I think this is the stage where it comes together for me, and I like how it looks. My other favourite stage is when I start getting samples back from the team and I see how they've used it. I always find that quite exciting as well. But yeah, this is the point where it comes together and I'm like, yay, it looks quite good. Not like, oh my goodness, you're a dreadful artist. So never listen to negative self-talk. Just keep going, you'll get there. Once I finish that stage, everything gets emailed over to Photocentric. I was really fortunate to visit their offices in the summer, so this is their reception. And then the first thing that we will do is we go through the doors to the artwork department, which we will just see in a minute just here. So when I send my artwork over, they check it, they make sure all the spacings are correct, and then they will send me something to approve. Once it's approved, these are the people that actually make their own photopolymer. So they actually designed their own photopolymer and the process that they use to create the stamps. So they mask them off using this particular machine here, and that's when they actually cure and make the stamps. Then they go through this special sort of cleaning process through this these machines. Again, they designed all of these themselves, and then they are hung out to dry. Once they're dried, they are cut apart like this, and then they package all the packages up by hand and post them back to me. Okay, so that is it. The stamps arrived. I actually have them at the house because the box is massive. Oh, sorry for the wibble wobble. And I really can't be bothered taking those all the way down to the studio just to do a fancy unboxing, to then bring them back to the house and up to the loft, which is where they live because the loft is my warehouse. So anyway, shall we see the stamps? Okay, so here is Foxy Tot. You saw me draw them. Look at that. And that's them on the back there. I always get really excited when I see this particular part. And then here is my one that made me think of my granddad. This one here, Little Lady Oaks. There she is, all in stamp form. So the next thing we need to do is to go and stamp her out and see how she looks. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do hope you enjoyed watching my process of how I go from sketch to stamp. The next stage of the journey for me is to get ready for releasing these on TV, which will be on Monday the 20th. So to do that, I have to prepare demos and get myself organised, and I have filmed behind the scenes of that as well. So if you'd like to check that out, that will be coming out later this week. If you love studio vlogs and would like a closer look at my studio, then you might want to check out this tour right here.